Hey everyone, and welcome back to another World of Warcraft video. So, patch 7.3 feels like a repudiation of patch 7.2 in so many ways. The second zone of Argus just opened up on the PTR, and with it, we see pretty much all of the new tile sets on offer with this patch. I'd go easily as far as saying that this is by far the most visually impressive thing the developers have done in a game update, and perhaps some of the best visuals they've delivered ever on a whole. The easiest way to describe how this patch feels for me is something that only the people who've been with the game for a long time will kind of know firsthand. It's like your Hellfire moment, the first time back in 2007 that you stepped through the Dark Portal and you looked out upon this massive alien landscape with what, to this day, is still one of the best skyboxes in the game. You are dwarfed by the size of the Dark Portal, and at the time, what was thought of as being this massive battle going on at its base. And that didn't change the fact that Hellfire wasn't the best zone ever, but once you got past Hellfire, you went into Zangarmarsh, Terracore, Nagrand, Shadowmoon, Blade's Edge, Netherstorm. All of them felt like alien places, and most importantly of all, they were entirely different to what we had seen before. Argus has managed to capture that feeling for me, and indeed, it's managed to capture that feeling for a lot of the people on the PTR who I've talked to. The first zone, Corcoon, is still black and green, but it's got enough new stuff thrown in that it still feels fresh. The second zone, Macquarie, feels truly alien though, and that's the focus of today. While they do reuse some assets from Warlords of Draenor, the color palette feels completely different, almost similar to No Man's Sky's coloring, which I think it's definitely one of the few great things about that game, as much as it had its, other problems. And sure, the colors are only nice if you found a decent planet, but still, it's very impressive. Similar to Outland, they've pushed the envelope when it comes to the skyboxes that we're surrounded by. The view is normally dominated either by Azeroth or the ruins of Argus, and this is really doubled down on the alien feel, and it's just really damn pretty to look at. It's also cool seeing all of the zones that we know, but from space, and yeah, the distances and the physics here is completely fucked, but you can make out a surprising amount of detail, and it's really cool seeing that new perspective. As for Macquarie, it's the old capital city of the Eridar before all that Legion stuff went down. They did something really interesting with it though. So you know that bit of Argus that got blown out of the planet? That's actually the city. So from your perspective on the city, you can look back on Argus itself, the destroyed planet. Now then, if you turn around, you'll see that you're on the central chunk of the city, but of course it's been blasted out into space, and you can see the other chunks floating there with Azeroth behind it. And then there's this parallaxing effect with all the different chunks, which does this great job of reinforcing the scale. Once again, it gives you that Hellfire effect where something really feels new. Plus, you can see the whole Macquarie shelf area from the first zone of Argus, and it just all makes a lot of sense. Now, it does reuse and remix the Draenor architecture that we saw from Warlords of Draenor, but there's some really unique foliage, a new color palette that's really interesting, and this overall makes it feel different from anywhere that we've been before. It's also a really open zone in comparison to much of what we've seen in Legion, which is great. It in general just gives this patch a feeling of delivering a lot of large vistas that really make it feel like you're on this big alien planet, something that's new. Now, the third zone of Argus is the location of Antorus, the Burning Throne, which is the Tier 21 raid instance. It does seem to mix both the Titan and the Legion themes, which we have seen before, but it also does contain a lush area and then the seat of the Pantheon, which is something that is new as well. Now, what I want to reinforce here is that this patch actually feels new and different. This is really something that Blizzard needs to keep in mind when it comes to patches. Patch 7.2 was pretty damn low effort, and in fairness, you can see why when you look at Argus. That's clearly where all the time went. But if I were to ask you to sketch an interesting place, I somehow doubt that a bunch of twisted rocks in the middle of the sea with a boring color palette is what you'd come up with. In fact, maybe it will be the last thing you'd come up with. When I was going through the patch 7.2 PTR, I honestly found it hard to be excited by what I was seeing. It just did not feel new at all, which really got me to thinking about the other expansions of World of Warcraft and what they did well. The difference between, say, Vanilla and the Burning Crusade, self-evident. We just hadn't seen anything like that before, and the same goes for Wrath of the Lich King. The whole Nordic theme was new and executed very well, and then the likes of Ice Crown and Storm Peaks offered spectacles that rival really what we see today, and then we've got places like Sholazar which still did manage to feel different from, say, Ungoro. Then as for Cataclysm, well, I think it was maybe less visually inspiring past the initial wow factor of everything that we loved being blown up, never to be repaired. And then as for Mists of Pandaria, as divisive as it was visually new and visually different, with areas like the Jade Forest really feeling unique. And then Warlords of Draenor once again provided us with new and exciting areas that felt alien, even though it was, a redo of Outland. But anyway, then Legion came along, and it gave us a higher resolution version of stuff we'd already seen before, but with really tightly gameplay-focused, oriented zones, which made it feel less like a world and more of a theme park, which we've already covered before on the channel, bar maybe Suramar, which I think was one of the strongest visual bits of Legion. Argus really does bring that wow factor back, though, and it's the kind of wow factor that normally accompanies an expansion launch, not a patch, and that's a hell of an achievement for the team. Oh, and then there's also the various different invasion points, which look absolutely fantastic. There's gameplay issues there, but still, they're different from what we've seen most in Legion and really welcome. I think the lesson to learn here for Blizzard is that game systems are fine and all, but you need to get people in the door with something that you just look at it and you're compelled by it. Look at Warlords of Draenor, extremely successful in the first month, probably sold a crazy amount of just, straight up copies. Great visuals, strong first impression, but then it was let down in the system, so that proves the importance of systems, but it also does prove that strong visuals really do work. Now, I do need to cleanse myself of all this disgusting positivity. Of course, it's the internet. We cannot be having that. Something might look fun, but actually be not fun. Say a Spine of Deathwing. Now, this video, just take it for what it is. It is praising the strong art direction of this patch. We've yet to see how the systems shape up, and we've got to withhold judgment until then. But, at least until then, we do have some pretty pictures to look at. So, there you go, that's it, a bit of a visual preview and commentary of what they've managed to do with patch 7.3. In short, I'm very happy indeed, I just hope they don't fuck up the system. So, thank you very much for watching this video, let me know what you think about the new zones down in the comments, and I'll see you next time.